Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday. We finally made it. The end of the work week is upon us. Weekend right here. Awesomeness. All right, 10:32 a.m. California time here. It is May 3rd, 2024. And latest activity shows a 4.0 out there across the area of the Java Trench. That was too much earthquake activity there on the globe. Don't quite have that much in the last 24 hours, but we do have a decent earthquake swarm out there across the Kilauea volcano area. The USGS putting out notification here today of the heightened unrest, and also a little map showing the most recent earthquake activity out here in the yellow circles. Look at all that earthquake activity in the upper east rift zone where that earthquake swarm has been confined. Now, this is just the earthquake activity in a short amount of time period, just about a week or so. A little bit less than a week of earthquake activity out here. They've seen thousands of earthquakes here in the upper east rift zone. And, I think this is getting geared up to seeing an eruption and a fissure activity event open up out here soon. Now, back in 1974 or so, and some older dates, we've seen some activity out here. The most recent, of course, being up here across the crater area up at Lava Lake, where we've seen that long-going eruption filling up that area. But it's not always the case. It's not always just confined to the Lava Lake area. Of course, back in, it doesn't quite show it over here, 2018, we've seen that activity stir up further around the lower east rift zone. But right now the focus is right here across the upper east rift zone where all that earthquake activity is occurring. You can see a lot of that showing up here on the USGS map as well. Just south of the summit region, I don't think we're going to see an eruption there across the summit area. It's going to be more so right here as noted on that map here, upper east rift zone. Maybe within this spot of the 1974 and 1973 area. So we'll keep an eye on that. Their latest updated information here, again, this was put out recently. They're talking about 1,600 earthquakes have been recorded since midnight of April 27th. So that's a lot of earthquake activity, and it's occurring very shallow below the surface here, about 1.2 to 1.8 miles below the surface, and getting shallower. So, of course, let's read some of this and see what they have to say here. Patterns of ground motion are consistent with inflation of the two main magma storage regions beneath the Kilauea volcano. Here it is. Here's a little overview. Mauna Loa up here, Kilauea summit region right here. Couple different tunnels out here. Of course, here's the southwest rift zone, right? You guys remember back in January, February, we seen that huge displacement of magma that had been sitting here at the summit. That created a magma intrusion off to the southwest rift zone. Now we're starting to recharge the system here around the east rift zone, upper east rift zone right here. And I think that's a good likelihood that we're going to see the activity stir up there in terms of fissure, eruptive fissure activity. So let's get back to their wording right here. Let's see here. Okay, since the southwest rift zone intrusion earlier this year, that's what I was just chatting about there, how that magma got displaced off to that area, instruments have once again begun showing signs of Kilauea's shallow magma plumbing system refilling. The Sandhill tilt meter, which is sensitive to the deeper South Caldera magma reservoir Kilauea, has shown steady inflationary tilt since early February. So data indicate that the South Caldera reservoir has regained the volume of the magma that it lost during the recent intrusion, such that pressurization levels are now similar to pre-intrusion levels. So things are swelling down there. The UWE has shown slower inflation than SDH over the past few months, which implies that the South Caldera reservoir continues to be the main focus of magmatic recharge. So another potential outcome could be another eruption either inside or outside the caldera. They're stating here that we could just see an intrusion event similar to what we've seen there in February, how we got all that magma that was at the summit region get displaced somewhere else without an eruption. Eventually, we may see an eruption down there. But the current increase in the number of earthquakes and rates of ground deformation, ground inflation, are showing us that Kilauea's magma storage system is becoming primed for its next event. One potential outcome could be another significant intrusion, again, similar to what we've seen back in February, when magma moves into a new area within the volcano but fails to erupt on the surface, such as what occurred, again, back in January, early February of this year. But, there's the other outcome. We could either see a intrusion or an eruptive fissure activity at the surface level there. And if it does, I'm leaning towards this area around the upper east rift zone between the 1974 and 1973 eruptive vents. They did put up a webcam, temporary webcam here, looking northwest towards the upper east rift zone of Kilauea volcano. Right now, it's a little cloudy out there. Morning time, it looks like some low clouds in the area. Here's the last 24 hours, it looks like. Not the highest quality image, but hey, at least they're monitoring the activity here. And we'll see what happens. It's definitely an interesting event. And as we continue to see the earthquake activity increase and get shallower, the more likely scenario here that we'll see eruptive fissure activity outside of the lava lake region over here around the upper east rift zone. Just makes some sense right there, right? Seems to be hinting towards that. Again, right here, here's all the earthquakes. Just what they say, 1,600 earthquakes. That's a lot of earthquakes here in just the last few days across this area, and it's unmatched anywhere else out here across the area except for right here, the upper east rift zone. So I think things are going to start getting busy here soon. Let's check out the ground deformation data here real quick for the Kilauea volcano. By the way, live stream is up and running. It went down suspiciously again at 3:37 this morning, my time. Similar time as to yesterday morning. So somebody's being funny out there thinking that it's cool to pull the plug on the live stream early in the morning at the exact same time. And it's not my internet. It's just, I don't know who it is. Same person that's been doing it for a couple years now. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a company, maybe it's an agency. I don't know, but they keep pulling the plug. So I will just have to keep restarting the live stream if they do it again. All right, last 12 hours of earthquake activity up here across the summit region does show, obviously, quite a bit of earthquake activity. I'm not seeing any, fluid movement here in terms of magma being displaced. Obviously, there is earthquake activity, and that is indicative there of pressurization underneath the just the subsurface area here, indicating, obviously, magma pressurizing the area, but I'm not seeing any displacement far as magma maybe leaving the area off to the southwest rift zone or anywhere else. Deformation data. Let's go check this out real quick. Make sure the bells are off. Looks like they are. Magma intrusion. Well, magma recharging, I should say. We're still up there in terms of inflation. Here's the past month, past week right here. A little bit of decline going on right now, but it's been a stair-step event similar to what we've seen over the past few months. Keeps going up and up and up. And compared to the past year, we're matching the highest level here seen in the past year. And technically, we are still at the highest level in the last 5 years and since the 2018 eruption there. So things are pressurized, they're charged up. What it will take to kick this thing into gear, who knows? Maybe a little bit further magma into the area, and then there you go. You'll have an eruptive fissure activity event out here. Got to watch that, though, see if we don't get migration out here. It's possible we could see that intrude the area of the southeast rift zone out here, similar to where we've seen the 2018 eruption, but not really seen it yet. But I'm looking at these little signs here of maybe earthquake activity shooting off towards this area. Again, not seen it yet, but we'll keep an eye on it. All other areas, Mauna Loa looks quiet for now. the Kilauea or the Pahala area, deeper regions here underneath this area. Normal, very typical and normal there for earthquake activity. All right, what's going on here overnight? Goodness, did have some earthquake activity out here in New Zealand once again, a 4.5 coming in. South Island here, just off of the plate boundary. That's a 4.5, 56 kilometers deep. They have been seeing quite a bit of deeper activity here underneath the North Island recently. Looks like there's been a little bit of further movement down there as well. The main focus appears to be across this area, as noted there on the earthquake 3D globe. Quite a bit of focus there on that region. Lack of activity here today across Papua New Guinea eastward. Could be filling in this area today, but I don't know. It's been quite active here over the past few days. Just I think it's waiting for this area to catch up a little bit. So we'll see what happens today for this region. A lot of clustering going on here across the Philippines area, Taiwan southward. Really not seeing any major swarming going on up here across Taiwan for now compared to what we had seen, over the past month or so. They definitely seen a lot of earthquake activity up here. And, this was the region of the 7-pointer back, it's been over a month or so ago now, I believe. But we've had two separate swarming systems out here in this area. Right now it's almost completely halted and stopped, but we'll keep an eye on it because it has been stirring up out of the blue and being quite intense for a little while. Of course, this area did see an 8.2 out here, quite a few years back. I can't remember the exact date, but we've had I think it was 1920 when they had a 8-pointer out here. So a little bit of time has passed in respect to the larger quake potential out here. So obviously the longer time that has passed since the large earthquake, the more likelihood that we'll see a larger earthquake due to the accumulated slip rate and strain over time here in this area. There's that movement in the Philippines area. It looks like 5.7, the latest quake here, about 3 o'clock this morning. Fairly quiet up there across Japan, a little 4.5 into the Kurokamachaka. The Alaska area, now yesterday we had a decent earthquake swarm up here. It just kind of kicked up out of the blue. Really no main quake. If you look here, last 7 days of earthquake activity, seen a 5.5, couple 5s in there, couple 4s. Really no main distinguishable quake in there. Say if you were to have a 6.5 and then followed up by multiple 5s and 4s, that would be a normal sequence of earthquakes there. But this is just a swarm of quakes out of the blue, and then it just stopped with really no main quake. So that tells me right there an area to watch closely here, as we could see some further large-scale movement in that area. Around the Cook Inlet area of Alaska, 4.3 coming in early this morning. Outside the Anchorage area. Overall, though, heightened activity it seems to be taking place here across this area of the plate boundary, the North American and the Pacific plate boundary here. Keep an eye on it. Yesterday, also seeing a 5.0 off the coast of Canada. Now, this is just shy of the Cascadia subduction zone that sits over here. This area kind of looks like it's on the very close here to the, you got 3 distinct plates here. You got the Juan de Fuca Explorer plate and the Gorda plate down here. It looks like it's on that plate boundary of the Juan de Fuca and the Explorer plate potentially here in a little fracture zone. A couple different areas here. You got some spreading seafloor centers. You can see those ridges. Some strike slip up here as well. But either way, it's 5-pointer. That's a moderate quake. We didn't get a chance to check tremor last night. Let's go check out the tremor and see what we got. 255 epicenters of tremor there underneath Oregon. Really not seeing anything up north here, but it does look like there's some overall pressure out here against the Cascadia when we're seeing that 5-pointer up here a little bit further, and also some tremor activity occurring downstream into the subduction zone. That's an obvious sign here of strain against this area of the Pacific Northwest. Not a whole lot of inland earthquake activity for now. In California, typical movement here across the Clear Lake volcanic field. And the rest of California here looks like any given day out here along the west coast. Really no major swarming going on. A look at 2.5 map and above removes all the earthquakes there in at least in Southern California. Really not seeing a whole lot of movement today. But as always, be prepared. Yellowstone National Park, couple smaller quakes there from yesterday and today. A look at the seismograph stations does show this up here. I'm not for sure what this is. This is something local to the area. I don't think it's anything of value because it's not showing up anywhere else. Borehole, Holmes Hill, nowhere else is picking up this reading. In fact, it could just be wind. Maybe a tree hitting the seismograph station. I don't know. It does look like it picked up roughly about the time that we're noticing a wind event down here. So this station may be more exposed to the elements. That's not earthquake activity, because if it was, it'd be showing up across these seismograph stations. And right now, I'm seeing what looks like wind. And we'll go check this out here from the windy map just for verification purposes here. Here's the wind gust. It said about the last 3 hours of activity out here. 20 miles an hour, maybe a little bit further down south here, a little bit higher. 7 a.m., let's see, 8 a.m. or so. It does look like there's a little bit of wind out here. It's not showing up all across the park yet, but when we do get quite a bit of wind, it does it'll show up across all of these seismograph stations. But right now, it looks like it's just limited to a couple different stations here where I noted the higher wind gust. But aside from that, not a whole lot of localized earthquake activity. Earthquake activity is going to look like this right here. Those are earthquakes. Very, 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 very small earthquakes. Looks like USGS reported a couple of those. And if you note, all below 1.0. Very small quakes. All right, across the rest of the country here, I know Oklahoma has been getting some earthquake activity. We've been watching this migration, this pattern of earthquakes stretch across various oil fields here in Texas, even some oil fields here south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. San Antonio oil fields getting hit as well. Some of these areas that have seen redevelopment over the land, meaning new housing development. I would hope they are aware of it, but they've been built on old oil fields. If you look on here, the USGS, or on this map here, it says North Edmond gas and oil fields. This used to be a whole lot of oil fields out here, and they decided to build new housing developments out here on top of those things. So, eventually earthquakes will pick up for this area, as we've seen in the past at numerous oil fields throughout Texas and other areas of Oklahoma get hit. So this is where that 3.4 kicked up yesterday. It was felt by a lot of people because there's a lot of people in this area now. Oklahoma City just out here to the west. And again, new housing development. There may be even newer housing development on top of this satellite image. But this whole area is a gas and oil field before it was built, before all this housing development was built. So earthquakes, oil fields, I've gone into it 1,000 different times. The relationship between the two are 99.9% certain that these gas and oil fields and operations, pumping operations, create earthquakes over time. Sometimes immediately, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes a couple years, but they're all going to fill in. Eventually, earthquakes will be more common and larger out here across that area where oil fields are right now. And you can see that pattern just stretching all the way up here, further deeper into Oklahoma. This activity south here of Dallas-Fort Worth is out in some oil fields as well. Let's see if it's listed on the map. Sometimes they'll throw up the name, and then sometimes it won't. But you can kind of see this one here it looks like it's hard to tell on that. But backing out, you can see some of these oil pads. They're well distinguished right here. See all these tanks? And I'm sure there's some other ones in here as well. Sometimes it seems like it takes a little time for the pressure to hit these oil fields, but they're coming. It's coming. Definitely a lot more of these oil fields will get hit with earthquake activity over time. All right, moving on past that subject. See what else we got. Puerto Rico getting squeezed over here, it looks like, a little bit here between the Mariotos Trough and the Puerto Rico Trench. Wide array of earthquakes there in the 3 range, it looks like. with variable depths below the surface for those quakes. Deepest one shows a 3.0 here underneath the San Juan area, Puerto Rico, 109 kilometers for that three-pointer last night. Looking at the EMSC model globe here, typical movement across the areas of Middle America Trench. South America quite heightened here, it looks like, from about the Ecuador area down through the Peru-Chile Trench. You know, a lot of times this is fairly normal. It's a very active subduction zone. No big earthquake activity on it right now. No distinct pattern of swarming. Just a, pretty broad area of coverage right now for earthquake activity. There's a 4.7 here in Colombia, it looks like. The USGS not picking up on that. Somewhere around that vicinity. I've seen that 4.7, fairly new earthquake up there. The Atlantic Ocean, aside from one way down south here, this is a 4.8 South Sandwich Trench region. This area has seen a little bit of earthquake activity here in the last week. As you can see, looks like the latest one going to be a deeper area, though. Deeper quake, 113 kilometers for a 4.8. So things are straining and stressing here across this area of the plate boundary, the subduction zone. Kind of looking at the evenness of these quakes here. This is a well-defined subduction zone. More so on the north side. It looks like we may still have an area right here to fill in slightly. Potentially upstream, we could see some further activity in that region as well. Just been somewhat heightened in that area for a few days. Java Trench, here's that four-pointer. The rest of the world here, rest of the globe, typical activity out here looks like. Seen a 4.5 back over here across the area of eastern Afghanistan. USGS reporting that, though, as a 4.0. Well, there it is, 4.0. It looks like this activity is a little bit further to the west here, maybe over in Iran. USGS sometimes will report it. Sometimes it's the EMSC. It's kind of why I like to keep both agencies here on the globe, EMSC and the USGS, as a combination, just in case one forgets to mention an earthquake while the other one will cover it, and it's better to have that combination here on the globe. So we'll definitely watch Hawaii. I think that's key to watch that for now because of the activity stirring up there. Oh, what do we got? Another 2.7 coming into the Texas area. Oil fields, it looks like. Once again out here. Massive amount of oil fields out here in this area of Texas, and they're very visible out here on the desert floor. When things get created, when things are drawn out here or marked on the desert floor, it stays out there for quite a while. I remember traveling out here through Nevada last week in Utah. We took the loneliest highway in America, Highway 50. Absolutely beautiful. I love it. I love the silence out there. Not a whole lot of traffic, but there were along Interstate 50 or Highway 50 markings alongside the road in the sand. Well, not the sand. It's kind of a salty substance out there where they put rocks on there and created words. And those rocks have probably been out there for a couple years or so. It just goes to show you how the desert ground out there does not change much. You can create these oil fields and development out here, and they will always show up until they're erased completely off of the land. But I don't know where I was going with that, but it's a Friday. So anyway, earthquake activity continuing. Big old solar farm out here, along with lots and lots of oil fields and pumping operations, wastewater disposal ponds, like this little blue one out here. That's not a swimming pool, for the folks to jump in. These are wastewater disposal ponds and tanks here and oil fields. All right, let's move on past that and check out space weather activity. Of course, we did see an X flare yesterday. Pretty nice one. An X 1 point, what was it here? 1.6. That's going to be that mark right here up on the graph. Pretty decent. Since then, we've seen looks like another M flare and another C flare. Now, this is coming off of a Earth-facing sunspot. Going to be 3663. Very dynamic sunspot here. Let's see what we got since last night. Oh, yeah. Still getting quite complex here. In fact, looks like maybe another companion up here. Another sunspot area getting amplified. Got to watch this region down here as well. Looking quite dynamic and huge and complex. But the main threat right now, I think it's going to be this area right here, as it is currently facing the Earth, and that will provide us here with some further chances of some stronger flaring. Right now, it has been elevated here to about 25% chance for an X flare, proton event 15% as well, due to the heightened flaring activity. M flare at 75, C flare around 99% chance here, and I think we'll see those flaring possibilities kick up here with the growth of these newer sunspots. All right, let's see. No major auroras in the forecast for now. That X flare last night was a very impulsive X flare, and I don't think I don't think we're going to see any effects of that as far as a CME goes. But we'll keep our eye here on the sun. Well, don't want to keep our eye on the sun, but we'll watch these charts here and see if we don't get any further flaring. We really didn't see any major earthquake activity last night. I like to watch for, elevated earthquake movement following a large flare. And that one was, looking right at us. It was pointed right at the Earth. We didn't really see any large-scale movement. The largest was a 5.7 this morning, but that was hours following the event, and really no elevated activity out here yet. All right, Storm Prediction Center. Severe weather seems to want to linger out here across Texas and Kansas area, Oklahoma included in there as well. We do have a 5% chance for tornado activity out there once again in this area around Midland. Green area indicative there of the 2% zone. These guys are definitely getting slammed out here with severe weather so far in April and May. That's going to continue probably for, it looks like for a little while. 30% chance for some big-time hail out there across Texas as well. As we head into tomorrow, that severe weather looks to linger around as well. They're still hinting at a decent chance here of something big going on here on day 4. Now, day 4 is going to be Monday, early next week. In fact, they've enhanced this here to a 30% chance. So this far out, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 3 days away. But if these guys are already putting out a 30% chance for severe weather, I would take heed, because that's a serious deal. Looks like this could be almost a repeat of what took place last week when we seen all that tornado activity over around the Omaha area and the portions of Iowa as well. This looks to be just a little bit further to the south and west as well. But that does look like it includes just outside the OKC area, a good portion of Kansas up here, central Kansas. And then, of course, the surrounding region here indicative of severe potential as well. Something to watch pretty closely here, folks, as they're hinting at, a significant severe weather event taking place on Monday. We'll check back on that when we get a little bit more details. Now, that's going to be the result of a low pressure system that's coming into California, my neck of the woods here, tomorrow. Look at that. Beautiful low pressure system here for California. We don't get rain like that here in May. It's not our rainy month. We should be around 80-something degrees or so, and we've even had years past where we've been close to 100 already this time of year. But we're looking at some much cooler temperatures down into the 60s. That's quite cold for May. And rain and snow up in the mountains as well. Oregon getting a lot of snow in there. So that's going to stir its way further to the east and potentially stir up that severe weather potential here in Kansas. We'll have to see if they extend it any further south or north. It does look like a broad area here of concern. And after that, well, I guess we'll just have to see what happens. It does still look unsettled throughout the middle of May. Either way, it's been an active season so far for tornadoes. Quite active compared to years past. This has definitely been a dandy of a year for tornado activity out here. Not in California, but out here in the typical zones here of Tornado Alley. All right, folks, I am going to jump off here and just enjoy my day. It's supposed to be about 84 degrees here today. And then like 20 degrees cooler tomorrow with rain. So I'm going to get outside and enjoy the sunshine while I can. Keep an eye on Hawaii. There is a little bit of noticeable further movement south here. And that's kind of what I was talking about here. We have to watch that and see if we don't get further signals here of an intrusion event off to the southeast rift zone. That could be a scenario. But for now, we'll definitely watch it. I do have an earthquake seismograph station here called Hot Caves. That's a little bit further to the southwest, but it does look like it's picking up some of the 2 magnitude range, or the magnitudes in the 2 range, and I'm sure even more so for the magnitudes that are higher. But we'll keep an eye on it because I think that's going to start stirring up here at the surface levels pretty soon. Enjoy your Friday. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later tonight. Unless something major happens, live stream is up and running. Make sure you guys subscribe while you're here. Take care, folks.